If you are a Shmup fan, then Cave and M2 shot triggers are two names that will most likely ring a bell. With the high pedigree and Shmup excellence of the former, and the exquisite attention to detail and game preservation of the latter, the combination of the two is a match made in heaven. Or maybe we should say, a match made in hell. Bullet hell. It's that time again, guys. We are looking into our nascent series of Japanese gems, games that were only released in Japan and do not have any English at all, but maybe, just maybe, they are worth an import, and this one definitely is. Our game today will be Esp, which most likely you've heard of already. I talk about it pretty much all the time if you watch any of our import stuff. And of course, there's not a single best shmups on Switch list that does not include this way at the top. So you might be wondering, at this point, what is there left to talk about? Every shmup fan knows about it, it's been talked about to death. Well, my friends, there is a big thing that to this day has been left untouched. We are gonna do what no other YouTube has ever dared to do, the most outrageous, unthinkable, inconceivable, and frankly stupid thing to do. We're gonna take a look at the story of a shooter. We've got to get that angle, because believe it or not, it does actually have one. Look, it's right here in the manual. As far as we know, this has never been translated into English before, so hey, we might suck at actually playing shmups, but at least we can bring you some juicy exclusive info. Of course, we will also talk about the game systems and the reasons why this game fetches such a high price, but if you want a super in-depth gameplay analysis, just go watch Shmups on Switch. We're just here to talk about stuff that no one else is stupid enough to do. Why are we doing this again? One more thing before we get into it. If you've been around the channel for a few years, you'll know that there's never been an instance where I've said the name of this game correctly, or at least consistently the same. It comes out differently every time, and I'd like to sit here and say that it's kind of like an inside joke, I'm trying to be a little funny with it, but no, I'm just generally incompetent, so I apologize for my pronunciation. The story of Esp takes place in Tokyo in the futuristic year of 2018. Wow, so far away. After reaching its maximum capacity, a plan is devised in order to extend the living space of its residents and mitigate the overpopulation issue. On the other side of this remarkable growth, criminality is at an all-time high, with the so-called Esp, crimes committed by humans with psychic abilities, terrorizing the city. With no proper means of defending themselves, the vulnerable populace can do nothing but live in fear. It is in this tumultuous era where a criminal organization named Yakuza, led by the mysterious Lady Gara, begins its operations. Their power has managed to influence not only the economy but also the political world, gaining enough strength to keep the world under its control. In order to maintain the status quo and secure their expansion, the Yakuza organization begin a grand-scale manhunt, capturing and securing Esp users and then brainwashing them to become their servants. To stop Yakuza's apparently unstoppable growth, as well as the rampant Esp crimes, the police force create Judge, a criminal agency hoping to restore Tokyo to its former peaceful state. However, Yakuza has managed to put the JSDF under its control, securing the capital and converting it into its own fort, unbeknownst to the blissfully ignorant masses. Enter our three protagonists. Yusuke, a high school student whose only wish was to live a peaceful life, hiding in his own psychic powers. Irori, a judge agent that's been sent to Tokyo to deal with the issue at hand. And JB Fifth, a Russian spy with the goal of destroying Yakuza completely. There is one unlockable character called Alice, who is a new addition to the game. Out of all the playable characters, she's probably the one with the most fleshed out backstory. When she was 7 years old, her powers as an Esp were noticed by Lady Gara, who invited her into the Yakuza organization. They tried to benefit from her in multiple ways, but due to her weak physical constitution, those wishes could not be met. Yakuza then tried to clone her, but the plan ended up as a failure, as the only specimens that would awake their Esp powers suffered from decayed eyes. Even though she was greatly loved by Lady Gara, almost as if she was her own daughter, she fell into despair, ultimately attempting to take her own life at 13 years old. Miraculously, she manages to narrowly escape death, which only further strengthened her Esp powers to inhuman levels. Yeah, nobody said this was a light story. The entirety of this game's plot takes place in the span of a single day, during Christmas Day to be precise, so yeah, those who insist that Die Hard is a Christmas movie can also annoyingly insist that this game is a Christmas game, along with Santa Tracker and Death Smiles 2. Interestingly, you can also follow at which hour each stage takes place down to the minute thanks to the M2 gadget, a silly yet rather amusing feature. Since each character goes through the stages in their own order, I guess you could say here's where things start to diverge, but technically, the canon main character of this story is Yusuke, so let's continue from there. When you start a run with him, you can see a group of Yakuza agent scouts taking away a young boy. He is Satoru, an ordinary high school student and classmate of Yusuke. On that day, he suddenly awoke his powers as an Esper, grabbing the attention of the Yakuza organization. Yusuke then gives chase to rescue him, but when he finally reaches him, it's already too late. In an ironic twist of fate, the brainwashing by the Yakuza agents ends up failing. However, that threw him into an unstable mental state, transforming his body and covering it with an grotesque layer of flesh armor. With no other option, Yusuke then confronts him, but at this point he could no longer hide his own Esper powers from Yakuza, so decided to jump into the battle between Yakuza and Judge and once and for all end the ongoing conflict. Before moving into the gameplay of Espera, please let me first talk about the scoring system in general. While usually ignored by most, scoring systems are wonderful design tools that can guide a player into fully understanding the game's ins and outs. I feel here where the game shines the brightest. Espera manages not only to have an easy to understand scoring system, but one that seamlessly is integrated into its gameplay. Basically, this game does away with the common bomb system seen in most shmups where you pick up bomb items in order to gain them back. Instead, it relies on a powerful attack capable of absorbing bullets that can be charged down and then released for devastating damage. This attack consumes energy from a gauge that can only be refilled once you collect a certain amount of scoring items. These scoring items only show up once you have reached your full powered up state, as they substitute the power up items. It goes without saying that it's in your best interest to collect as many of these items as you can, and you can increase the number of items an enemy drops by activating a scoring multiplier by tagging an enemy with your power shot and then finishing them off with your main shot. As you can see, everything is tied together in a simple yet brilliant way. In terms of game modes, Espera is separated into two sections, Arcade and Arcade Plus. Arcade is the original 1998 release completely intact. You also have Arcade Challenge and Arcade Osarai. The former divides the game into stages and allows you to retry them as many times as you want, and then later record your mistakes from your last arcade run and lets you replay them so that you can understand where you failed. Arcade Plus is probably the game's biggest attraction. It's an updated version of the original arcade release with some improvements, and more importantly, it's the mode where you can play as the new character Alice. She also becomes the true final boss of the game. She's really fun to play as, her main shot is pretty unique, and while her power shot makes it harder to score, it makes up for it by being extremely powerful. She's probably my go-to character to play as, in a big part thanks to this line she says when she's shot down. I can relate, Alice. I think we all can relate. As a boss, she can be toggled in the menu between a really easy version of her and a devilishly hard one. Besides those modes, you also have a super easy and custom mode, which I feel are self-explanatory. Super easy is probably the best way to unlock Alice since she requires a 1cc run. The game also offers local co-op multiplayer and online leaderboards from which you can download and watch any run. A great way to learn new approaches to defeat bosses and get past the more challenging parts of any stage. One for students of the genre, unlike myself, who just run around like crazy blowing shit up and hoping not to die. The myriad of options is what makes M2 Shot Trigger's release stand out from the rest of the shmups out there. This game wants you to get good, and it will give you as many tools as it can. I know some people might see shmups as games you can finish in a single sitting and then move on, wondering why they're being sold at such a ridiculous price, but it's releases like these that show how infinitely replayable they truly are. You can easily spend dozens if not hundreds of hours trying to master all of the game's mechanics, and Esp Psi will happily invite you to do so. But there's still one final mode we need to talk about, and it's the most fiendishly brutal mode of the lot of them. It's a house decoration mode. You are not a true shmup fan until you have 1cc'd an IKEA bookshelf. This is only for masters of the Allen key. But for real, on the outside, this game mode might seem pretty bizarre for an inclusion on a shmup. Well, it kind of is, but this is basically just a disguised tutorial mode. In it, you have to clear short-ish missions that will teach you the game's main mechanics. Clearing them will net you currency that you can spend on a gacha-like system that rewards you with furniture and clothing to decorate both your Esp character and his or her room. It's a silly mode, but the high contrast between the adrenaline-pumping action from the arcade game and this more cutesy dollhouse gameplay makes it somewhat endearing. Now, this game is available on the Japanese eShop for slightly less than 5,000 yen, which is equivalent to the currency on your screen right now. It's never been on a discount in over 2 years. It is available physically as well as an import exclusive. Of course, since it's in this video, there is no English, so what about the language barrier? Is there one to you importing? This should probably go without saying, but you really don't need to know any Japanese whatsoever to fully enjoy this game. In fact, if you are worried about not understanding the menus, they have actually been translated by fans, and there's a link in the description if you want to check that out if you're worried about it. The only part that you will not understand are the mission briefings from Iori's room, but then again, they are mostly tutorials explaining things that you can actually just figure out on your own. You really don't need to worry. And if you think the barrier is low enough for you and you want to get this game, there are links below to purchase a physical import. If you click that link, then you support us at the same time, and you can also get a very nice 5% discount if you use the coupon code SwitchWatchTV while checking out. That's all one word, SwitchWatchTV, for 5% off any physical item from PlayAsia. Or if you want to go digitally, there's some Japanese eShop credit down below in the pinned comment and the description, and you can also support us by using those as well. Now, you may remember we give 3 ratings in Japanese gems, 1 for the game as a whole out of 10, is it good, regardless of the language issues, and then 2 more ratings out of 5, 1 for those who are studying Japanese and 1 like idiots like me who don't know any Japanese. If what you've been hearing hasn't given it away yet, we really love this game. It's basically the gold standard for shmup releases on the Switch, and overall one of the greatest games on the system. It does admittedly require you to go into a certain mentality. If you just want to feed the game a bunch of credits and push through the game in an afternoon, then it might seem a bit shallow. But if you want to understand what this game is about and what the genre as a whole is about, this is by far the best place to start. This is a great product for those who really want to master the genre, learn how to become better, and not only 1cc one time, but consistently. It's a 9 out of 10 in that regard. On to our language ratings. Well, the first one is meant for those who are learning Japanese and want a game to practice with. In this regard, Esp Ding Dong will barely offer anything useful. There are some descriptions here and there, but you'll be too busy dodging bullets to even bother to read them. This is not for one who are students of the language, this is one for students of blowing shit up. A 1 out of 5. Our second rating is for those who don't know any Japanese and just want to play the game itself. In this regard, it is almost flawless. There is just that one side mode, Iori's room, that might be a bit hard to understand how to play, but honestly, you are not missing much. A 4.5 out of 5. And there we have it, guys. Thanks as always to Miguel Marin for his expertise on Japanese stuff and writing these Japanese gems videos, mostly. Which game would you like us to cover next? Remember, they need to be Japanese only. Check out the rest of the series, check out the playlist. I expected it would take a while to get going, but if you could support it with some views on that playlist, that would be awesome. And thanks to our executive producers, Dane Wilkinson, Goddard Resin, Boombox, Brett McLean, Jonathan Ruma, Santa Tartaruga, Alexander Cato, J. Cross 7776, Elisa, Punky Dooster, Michael Del Polito, Cartoon Soren, Jack Steros, Vilas, Robotech, Z, Raven Knight, Thorn Metal Luna, Parsnip Coffee, Government Fat Cat, and Isa, plus you. Yeah, you watching right now, if you watched all the way through, man or maness or whatever gender you want to be, thank you for watching all the way through. You help us grow. Here's a bit of a challenge. Give me a trident emoji, because it kind of looks like the symbol for the Greek letter Psi. It's a bit of a stretch, but you know, it's a challenge for you. Check out some of our other stuff. We'll see you guys over there. Have a good one.